January 23rd, 2023, in our apartment in Yeoju, South Korea. It is the day after Seollal, or Korean Lunar New Year, and it is officially the year of the water rabbit and the year of the water tiger has just ended. And the internet tells me that the year of the water tiger was about bravery and courage and strength, which seems to jive well with my double duty work load, my day job of teaching and my night job of uh, meeting nightly production quotas for art, which honestly take more hours per night than my teaching during the day. So, not a lot of sleep this year, although it's been a little more regular than my experience with erratic insomnia. So, yeah, it's been a year that required strength and courage and bravery to power through that. Now, the year of the water rabbit, I'm told it's about hope. And since we're weeks away from moving to a tropical island, that seems to yeah, that seems right. So, any thoughts?
Well, I think it was a few days ago, I was thinking about this 2023 year. And the words that came to mind, I was like, oh man, what I want for this year. And the two words were renewal and regeneration. So I think that actually does fit into the theme of the water rabbit. I think the water rabbit is more along that lines. But that is definitely what I am signing up for after ending. Goodness, 4.5 years in Korea. Man, that is what my body desires. Is I just need some rest and relaxation. Also, of course, like I want to continue the creativity and the expression. I'm not saying I'm just going to be a lazy bum on a couch, but it's kind of like, I guess, yeah, wanting to create from a place of feeling just totally nourished and a place of overflow versus feeling like it's so more of a struggle, which, as Keith said, this last year it was kind of like that. It was, what is it? Burning the candle from both ends. That was kind of the vibe of this last year. And I cannot even count the amount of nights that we were up till, gosh, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, sometimes even 6 in the morning. And our job, actually teaching English, it starts later in the afternoon. So we would have this really strange schedule where we would end up staying up super late to get the artwork done. Mostly Keith, this has been his year of just like a massive amount of art output with animation. I mean, just a massive amount of, oh man, he just got so much better every day, 5, 6 hours of animating every single day for a year. So you can imagine. Yeah, more than that. So even though I was not, nearly as, what's the word, prolific at all, I had this weird block most of the year. But I think that might have in part been from the lack of good sleep. So, I mean, we were still getting 7, 8 hours, but it is just not the same when you're falling asleep at 3, 4, 5 in the morning. And even if you sleep till, you know, the afternoon, it's still not the same. So,
No, it's not.
yeah, and I mean, Chinese medicine talks about that, right? Like, there's specific hours when the body's doing its different processes. So if you get to sleep early, you actually are getting like a much better cleansing than if you get that late night sleep.
I wish I had a period where I was obsessed with learning about Chinese medicine and how the different organs correspond with different hours of the day in different periods of the year. But man, I wish I had the chart that I wrote out in front of me. But basically, according to lore, if you fall asleep before 10 p.m. each night, your body does each hour, according to Chinese medicine, is worth twice as much sleep between the hours of 10 and I think 2 a.m. or 1
It
a.m.
might even be
maybe.
from 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Might even start. I don't know.
Maybe a little before then, but your organs get like a deep clean,
Yeah.
a deep cleansing between if you fall asleep before 10 p.m. And I heard about it like a hospital in China where everyone who goes there, they, lights out at 9. You got to be asleep by 10. And maybe they fabricated the statistics, I don't know. But according to one Chinese medicine enthusiast from the United States, he was claiming that statistically they have a better track record of like cancer going into remission, shit like that. Not
Hmm.
overwhelmingly, but noticeably. So, yeah, and we did that for a while. We were going to sleep before 10 p.m.
And trying to do
and
the animation in the morning,
trying to do the animation in the
but it
morning.
just
What happened is summer came,
yeah.
and geez Louise, trying to feel normal or have any sort of normal sense of schedule with all that extra stress heat.
It got so hot
It
this
gets
last
so
summer.
hot. Oh my god, dude.
Well, and then I think we've mentioned in one of the prior podcasts, I think, that Keith's room where he teaches, just like for whatever reason, was like a sauna in there. And even though we had an air conditioner, it would just leave the room. And his room was really hot. So he would come home so many nights with a headache or just completely exhausted. Because imagine like
Burned
being in
out,
a sauna
man.
for a few hours a day. So,
Yeah, and it
and
would take a few hours to kind of recover in the air conditioning of my bedroom at home before I could get to animating. So that kind of threw
yeah.
off both the sleep and the animation. And yeah, the at work, the room, it's a corner room with the sun just blaring right into this window, which goes from the roof to the ceiling. I'm sorry, from the ceiling to the floor. And it didn't even have curtains for a long time until finally I was like, dude, we need curtains. And of course, they got beige curtains, which don't really block out the sun that well, but it was an improvement. And the building is a black metal building, so it's like it heats up in the sun, especially in the summer. And even now in January, it gets hot. I teach in a t-shirt and with no heating on, and all the kids are wearing like jackets because they don't like taking off all their big puffy jackets. But it's a hot room, and I'm
Yeah.
extra heat and photosensitive. Shamar's phone keeps doing this ring, which is from a public health notice, and it's
Coronavirus
kind of like an
updates.
Amber Alert, but it's for geolocated coronavirus outbreaks in town, and we get warnings constantly
Yeah.
for. I guess South Korea's back in like one of the worst hit countries in the world with high numbers of infections, although their death rate isn't that high. I think but the infection rate's pretty bad.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we've had so many students, especially the last few months, who will just stop showing up and we'll think like what happened? Like did they drop out? Like what's up? And then we'll learn later on that they got coronavirus or somebody in their class got coronavirus, so they had to stop coming and then they'll just disappear for 2 or 3 weeks and then they'll show back up. And I don't know how, but knock on wood, like with as many kids have gotten coronavirus, like neither one of us has yet, or at least if we did, we didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a few more weeks left in Korea and just hoping that we don't get it in that remaining time.
Yeah, I mean everyone wears masks. There's no grumbling about that. Everyone wears it. It's considered part of your civic duty to not spread disease to other human beings. So it's very big of them.
Yeah.
And so that I'm sure that helped us. My windows don't open in my classroom, so I can't let in cold air or get some airflow going to usher out the virus particles floating around the air.
I know, but sometimes I think of these kids, though, especially the really little ones we have, they're like 5 or 6, and I've only ever known them with the mask. Sometimes one of the kids will like take off the mask for a few moments to bite a piece of candy or something. And that's the only time I'll see their face. And then I'll be like, oh my, like surprised, like, oh my gosh, that's what the kid looks
Yeah.
like. Like they look completely different without a mask.
Sometimes they're cute. They've got like chubby cheeks. I'm like, oh wow, you actually are
Some are
a
cuter,
kid.
and then some are actually more gremlin-like than you
Some,
ever
oh
imagined. Like they
man,
look cuter with the mask.
God, there's this
But
one kid. I won't say his name, but when he takes off his mask temporarily to bite candy or something, he like frowns and scowls when he eats. Like, that says something about your personality when you frown when you're eating.
Candy.
And like he's a little kid, he's like, "Mah, mah, mah." Like he's not performing or anything. He's just that's his natural attitude.
Yeah.
And of course he's a bad kid. Usually he requires a lot of guidance, but yeah, every time he takes off his mask, I'm like, oh man, dude, your scowl is not appealing. So put your mask back on, little goblin gremlin.
Man, I gotta say, like,
Goblins can be cute, but
yeah.
gremlins are a little more nasty.
Yeah.
He's a nasty kid.
After teaching, I mean, I'm serious, hundreds of kids these last few years, I've seen like patterns, but also just like so many different types of personalities and just like weird things that kids do. But like, no matter what school you're at or what new city you're in, there's certain patterns that remain the same. And I think we've brought it up before. I keep telling Keith, I'm like, man, you got to make a cartoon series about kids because there's just so many hilarious things they do, but also like mischievous. I think in the past, before I started teaching, I thought of kids as a lot like cuter and more innocent. But like the longer I
No.
teach, the more I realize how like sometimes they're like little demons, and I realize how bad they can be, and they know exactly what they're doing. They're super smart. So I'm not a parent. I'm sure, if you're a parent, you see all sides of your kids. But man, it's been a wake up call.
Good mischievous would be Goonies.
Yeah.
Bad mischievous would be like Chucky.
Totally.
And
Totally.
They don't like kill,
But there's some
but
really bad ones.
they can be quite malicious, dude.
Yeah.
A lot more like Chucky, dude.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's one we taught in Daegu. Oh man, she's a sociopath straight up.
And she was
Like
maybe
you
like
could
7 or
stare
8.
into her
Oh my
eyes and like
gosh.
watch her every day, and it's like, whoa, she is constantly looking to find an advantage. She's like a reptile, like and the performance, the faking crying because she wants to get out of class when you're starting to make the class do work. It's not just trying to get out of class. It's like constantly. I don't know. I feel like if I were to describe it more, people would be like, "Well, there's a lot of kids like that." But man, you'd have to see it to believe it. The kind of vacant, like dead serial killer eyes in her face, and she's like so young, like.
And it feels so weird to even like say anything like this or admit this, but when you're teaching so many kids, you see like those patterns, and you see most kids are within this range, and it's very easy. Like the longer you teach, you can spot these kids in like 3-4 seconds, the ones that are like definitely like outside of the normal spectrum of behavior. It's just so obvious.
Yeah, she was so young. She got some of her friends to like beat up and try to beat this other kid, like hit him and stuff, and she would.
Yeah, she
And
was
then
my student, and I was out of the classroom, so it was just the kids in there, but the CCTV was on.
well, hold on. She would attack this kid with the other goons that she could round up, and when the kid started to fight back, she recorded it, and then tried to get the kid in trouble for attacking her. But then the CCTV caught it.
Yeah, and there was the parents came in, and there was crying and drama and apologies, and of course the mother of the like psycho kid felt horrible. And so that's the other thing. It's like, like
You
maybe
can't blame the parents.
you can't
for
always
all of
blame
this.
the parents. Like sometimes it is their fault, and sometimes the kid is just born, maybe there's some wires loose or something.
She's got a screw loose, dude.
Yeah.
And there ain't no fixing it, I'm afraid. And the other teachers, the Korean teachers, they were like, yeah, dude, I don't think there's anything we can do. And I was like, dude, she's kind of like I don't know, like a mutant or a disease. You just gotta kind of confine it and hope that it doesn't infect other people. Not that she's gonna make other people psycho, but the damage could affect other people. Man, that was weird. And she stood out of all the hundreds of people that we taught. I was like, yeah, I did not get a trace of empathy from this person,
She
which is
definitely
weird.
stood out. There were maybe
And it wasn't impulse control either. Like
No,
it was
very
so
calculating.
so conscious, and man, and day after day after day, and the way that she would try to create sleazy dictator kleptocracy kind of machine around her where she would like bring candies and try to create loyalists who would
Yeah,
help her
it
do
was
back. She's like
crazy.
Saddam Hussein or
No,
Stalin or something.
no, I mean, it's not that bad,
No, yeah,
but
dude. For a
yeah.
6-year-old, it's identical.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, okay, we're kind of getting off topic here, but I will say probably over these 4 years, there's been maybe three kids who have stood out as being very difficult and have I've learned so much watching them, and like it's really opened my eyes to humans. And I think it's like when you teach kids you realize like all these kids eventually obviously become adults. So it's kind of made me more aware, because it's like, man, if this kid was like this at 6 or 7, okay, then you just imagine them 10 years, 20 years later, like this was deep deep in their like being in psychology
Yeah.
or even wiring.
Just keep that kid out of politics, business, and law enforcement.
Oh my god.
Man. As for the other kids, there's some mean kids, but I can tell
There's a
they're
difference.
frustrated by something. With her, she just wanted power.
Yeah,
It's
there's a
weird,
difference.
weird, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's kids who want attention and they kind of know when to draw back. And then there's like, you can tell there's differences in like the vibe of meanness. You can tell if it's frustration or they have difficulties with family, but some are just like kind of evil. It's not it's very small,
Only
small
like
percentage.
one or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I've had. So okay, you're the rabbit, hope. You're the tiger, strength, bravery, perseverance, all that. So a lot of people don't know much about Chinese metaphysics, and all this comes from China. So the Sinosphere countries, those are the countries influenced by Chinese culture, like Japan and Vietnam and Korea. They use a lot of the same metaphysics, ways of interpreting reality that China does, but they've got their own local take on it. So Seollal is, we call it Chinese New Year usually in the U.S. Here, Seollal in Korea, we've got, let's see, what did we get? We got 2 extra days off,
Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday. It's Monday now. So that's cool. And everyone really did seem more cheerful
Oh, they
when we were
did.
walking around. It's like they did their family obligations where they have to go and bow, like literally get on their hands and knees and bow before the old people in their family, and who are usually sitting upright. And they bow, and I can't remember what they say. Something about, you know, I respect you or something like that, and I wish you good luck in the year ahead, and all this. The young bow before the old, and then the old give some spending money, so some pocket change. You get some bucks for the young kids.
Fun bucks.
The kids love getting money. They don't mind bowing. They're just like, yeah, this is how it is. It's young bow before the old. But it seems like after everyone did that yesterday, when we were out, we go on a long walk to one of those self-service ice cream stores with no cashier. You just walk in and there's big freezers everywhere, and you can check yourself out. There's cameras there so you don't steal anything. And culture here, people don't really steal. It's not, there's a little bit of that, but
It's pretty rare.
compared to the West or the US, it's just unheard of. So I went to go get my corn cone. Shamar hates him, but I love him. Tastes like corn.
That tastes like creamed corn from the can as ice cream.
If
It's
there's a
so
little
sweet.
bit of like a chocolate shell around it. I mean, there's like a wafer. It's kind of a spongy, waffly sort of shaped material. Well, it's in the shape of a corn cob, and inside this kind of waffly textured corn shaped material, there's a thin layer of chocolate that crunches, and inside there's vanilla ice cream mixed with bits of corn and corn flavor. And I think it's interesting, but Shamar just thinks of
Oh,
cream corn.
oh, I just don't
I
like it at
admit,
all.
when it's not very cold, it does remind me of cream corn, and
Yeah.
no thanks. But if it's ice cold, it's just kind of
I
stimulating.
mean, it's a very unique ice cream flavor. So I can see maybe like why you like it for that
Yeah,
reason, but I just don't
that's
like it at all.
exactly why I like it.
I prefer green tea ice cream.
Yeah, me too. That's number two for me. So on our way out there to get my corn cone, we were looking, just kind of seeing, soaking up the vibes of the town. And I think after everyone bowed before the old people in their family, they were out drinking.
Hmm.
They're like, "Yeah, I got a few bucks, man. Let's cast off the stress of family vibes and go have some fun." So
With the friends.
it
Yeah.
seemed a lot less clenched
Well, especially
than
for a
usually.
Sunday night, there's usually not that many
Yeah,
people walking
usually the
around.
place
And
shuts down, but everyone knew that they didn't have to work the next day,
yeah, I can
and
feel it.
everyone was just chilling and drinking, and yeah, no, that was cool. Very nice.
You know what
Um,
else? Talking about theft. Well, you recently just lost your. Do you want to talk about your phone in the cab? Because I just.
yeah, I mean, I was gonna talk more about Chinese metaphysics,
Oh,
but
okay.
we could talk about that. Yeah, I lost my cell phone for one day. It fell out. No, it didn't fall out. I We had to get up early to go to the bank to do some stuff, and then I had to go to the post office. I mail letters to my parents for their birthdays and for Father's Day and Mother's Day. I don't really like writing emails all the time, that kind of thing, but I figure, 4 times a year, write a physical letter because no one gets physical letters anymore, and I think they're cool. So they cost an arm and a leg, but I go to the post office and mail these international letters. And on my way back, I left my phone on the back seat of a taxi cab. And as the guy was driving away, I was like, no, no, no. And there was nothing I could do. And I couldn't look up who the driver was because that was on my phone in the Kakao Taxi app. So I waited for him to come back, maybe. And anyway, I talked to someone at work, and she helped track him down. And the next day, we had to go back to the police station downtown across the river. And boy, they were jolly. It was like a sitcom, like a
Totally.
police comedy. We walked in, there's all these people in their late 20s and 30s, kind of.
And it was like the lunch hour, so somebody was delivering this like all these espressos and americanos and
Yeah.
cafe
I
lattes,
was
and
looking for donuts, couldn't find any.
they were all in
But
such a
they might
happy
as
mood.
well. They were so jolly. Like, oh, you talk to the foreigner. You talk. Finally, a woman who made more eye contact with me than anyone else here in Korea. I think probably because they're trained to stare people down. And she was so jolly, and she's like, okay, we're like a satellite station, so you have to go to the main one, which is a 15-minute walk down there. And we went in, and I filled out a paper and got my phone back. And boy, that was stress and anxiety for about 24 hours until I got the phone. And yeah, I don't know.
It was
That
just a fun little side.
fun thing. I'd never
And
been into a police
yeah,
station
there's no reason we would have ever been into a police station.
except for once, 15 years ago. I think I was with my friend, and I was like, "Oh man, we're about to hit the subway to go into Seoul. I wish I could get like a donut or something to chew on while we're going." And he's like, "Oh, I know where to go to get directions to a donut shop." And I was like,
What?
"Well, where?" And he was like, "Well, follow me." And he like goes down next to the subway, and there's like a police station there. I was like, "Oh, come on." He asked them, and they were all being jolly too, kind of like pulling up their belts and what can I
What's the
do?
word? Donut shop,
And we're like,
yes.
Krispy Kreme. He's like, oh yes, yes, oh, and pointed us to the Krispy Kreme. No, I think it was Dunkin' Donuts. I don't think they had Krispy Kreme
What is
just
that a
yet.
thing though? In Korean cops eat donuts too. Oh
I,
my
I
god.
think he was trying to make
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
sly joke
I think
to
so.
me,
Yeah.
but no, they were wonderful. They were the most jolly people I've seen in town. Foreigners included. The other day. So yeah, so to backtrack a little, Chinese metaphysics. There's the 12 zodiac animals. Each year has an animal. And there's also 5 stages of time. So there's water, and then wood, and then fire, and then earth, and then metal, and then the cycle like repeats. So those are the 5 stages of time. And so every year also has an element, not just an animal. So 5 times 12, that's 60. So every animal in this 12-year cycle gets their own, a new element each year for 5 cycles. So it's a 60-year cycle. And so this year is the year of the water rabbit. It'll be 60 years before there's another year of the water rabbit. And I was born a water dog. And I had all this confirmed for me. I mean, I think there's ways you can check all this online, but back in Daegu, I had a mystical experience where I took a coworker to a fortune teller.
She spoke Korean.
She was a coworker. She spoke Korean. She was a Korean American, and I would always pass these side streets where they had fortune tellers. They looked kind of like disreputable, like they were hidden in the shadows with a lot of Buddhist and Taoist symbols, a lot of lamps and such, flowers, that kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, I've never been to a fortune teller. I gotta see what's in store for me. And here, the fortune tellers will look into astrology and when you were born and everything. So I had to get all of my exact time and place, and like time zone and day and year that I was born for the fortune teller. We went in and it looked kind of dimly lit, like a dentist office, but kind of crappy.
Yeah, kind of small.
Small and
Smaller.
crappy, not well lit,
No.
and kind of bare walls with like a couple pictures on it. She used a computer program to tell me my fortune. And so she's like, okay, using the 4 pillars of destiny. It's 4 pillars, mean like year, month, day, and I think minute. Like I think the Chinese astrologers divide the year or the day into 12 2-hour segments. So their hour is 2 hours. And so they were like, okay. She was like, you're a water dog primarily, but that's your year. But as far as your month, day, and hour, it's all fire. And I was like, okay. So she's like, all right, you're gonna, you know, you need to be more grounded, this and that. And I'm like, okay, I got questions though, you know. She also said, you need glasses the moment I walked in. I felt like that's like an old cult technique where they like instantly start talking down to you and you start
Throw you off.
to throw you off and make you think like, oh, they're the authority figure. And but I was like, okay, cool. How do I become a big shot? She's like, well, silver is your color and you need to wear bling. And I was like, bling? She's like, bling, bling. And I was like, okay, bling. She's like, yeah, watch, ring, necklace, wear silvery stuff. And you'll become more of a big shot. You'll come into power. Like, okay. And I think eventually I did get a stainless steel watch, which I wear for special occasions like court and going to get the puffer fish. I didn't want them to poison me, so I was like, I better look my best so they won't think that I'm some rube they can poison and not face consequences. So, okay, she gave me the bling advice, and I was like, okay, what about my receding hairline? What do I do? She's like, you're doomed. And I was like, really? She's like, there's too much fire. And she's like, yeah, too much fire in your chart. The fire goes up to the top of your dome, burns off your hair. And I was like, shit. Okay, great.
Oh my
All right, what else? Can you give me advice? She's like, be careful of uh, traffic accidents. She said cars and motorcycles. She's like that could kill you. I think it was that, and there's some other thing that she told me to be careful of. I can't remember. Cars and motorcycles were one.
Which, let me just say one thing on that motorcycle
Oh,
thing.
the Jeju.
Yeah. So, like, when she's, yeah, yes, okay, blah, 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 blah. So, let me get back. So, we were in Jeju and what?
Well, I was gonna tell the story myself,
Oh,
but
okay,
if you
okay.
want to, you
No,
can.
no.
Okay.
We can go back and forth.
Yeah. Um. Moving on. I asked her. We'll get back to that
We'll get back to that.
motorcycle thing, and so I asked the fortune teller, all right, career wise, what's the secret? She's like, well, you might be doomed as far as money. You got to work really hard on that one. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, you could also die young too. It's like, I'm going to die young and poor. Are you kidding me? And I kept trying to find loopholes and like get her to say like, well, if you do this, you'll be. And she was like, okay, that's just your natural inclination is you're not like you're more of an artistic sort of person. You're not really that fastidious, which is weird because I have this obsessive compulsive streak where I kind of obsess with accounting, but I also have an artistic side where I'm just like, dude, I don't want to think about numbers because I'll think about them too much and then I go insane. So she was like, "Okay, your reading also includes tarot," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "All right, let's ask the tarot your question." I'm like, "Okay, what about would it be smart for me to primarily pursue writing as a career, as a lifestyle? What do you think?" And she's like, "Okay." She shuffles the deck. She deals a bunch of cards and blah blah blah. I don't really know what she was doing, shuffling and she revealed a card. It was like death, and I was like, "Fuck!" It's like just straight death. There was a guy like in a tomb. Okay, and she's like, "Okay, let me try again." And so she shuffled and reshuffled, and then it was like death, but another card. She's like, "Yeah, die."
Or like devil or something.
And there was like one with swords, one with a guy in a tomb, and then a third time she's like, let's try it again. And then it was like the Grim Reaper or something like that. And she's like, yeah, die. She's like, dude, do not pursue writing as your primary craft. I was like, fuck. And so, yeah, but anyway, back to the, oh yeah, she made me pay in cash as well. She was like, I tried to pay with card. She's like, could you please pay in cash? And I was like, okay. And then she wanted to take a picture of me to put on her website. I was like, okay. And which is a real bummer because I was sunburned and I hadn't shaved. So I had like patches of hair and this like weird blotchy face. In this dimly lit room, kind of dimly lit. It was dimly lit except for one or two bright, like fluorescent lights, so it looks extra
Like
gross.
the worst
The
lighting.
worst lighting possible, and I tried to give as good a smile, as sincere a smile as I could after being told that I might die young and poor
And lose your hair.
and lose my hair or die in a vehicle accident. And so I went to Jeju the next year and I bought a charm from some guy in a Buddhist store who was like, yeah, this one. He tried to explain to me in Korean and I didn't quite get it. I bought like three of them and I translated them later. And one of them said, like, and it was written in Chinese. So I had to do all this research to find the Chinese characters and translate them. And one of them was like protection against vehicle accidents. And I was like, yes, I'm putting that in my phone so that when I'm in a taxi, I won't die a horrible, mangled death. And so when I lost my phone the other day, I was like, shit. I'm vulnerable. So I got my phone back, so that's good. Anyway, at the end of my year teaching in Jeju-do, we had befriended by then we had befriended a Qigong instructor who I went on my birthday for our first lesson. And we took lessons from her for a year. And she was telling me she's like, yeah, you've got too much fire. And I was like, damn, that's exactly what the fortune teller said. She's like, yeah. She went into a lot of detail using Chinese metaphysics, yin yang, and all that stuff. And on our last trip outing with her, she took us on a little tour around the island, showing us all these interesting sights. We had some booze and pork with her at the end. And then right on our way back home on the highway, I was like, you know what? If I decide to go to Bali, I'll probably have to ride motorbikes. So like scooters. So maybe Jeju-do is the place where I should practice because there's not a lot of traffic here and they've got big wide roads because they want to encourage nasty development. And right as I said that I should practice riding a scooter or motorcycle on Jeju, that very moment, right in front of us, a guy on a motorcycle got hit by a car. And I was like, oh. And
It wasn't like extreme speed, so like he was okay, but it like he did kind of crash right there in front of our eyes.
fell down and got
Yeah.
off his motorcycle. And I was like, whoa. And he kind of was stunned and he got up and climbed back on his motorcycle after a second.
And then Keith and I just kind of looked at each other and we both thought about what the fortune teller said and we were like, oh God, okay, never mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't like hiding from things.
No, it's
so
true.
I'd like to
Maybe-
get a handle on my
Yeah,
scooter.
just be cautionary when you use
Well,
the scooter.
that's part of the reason I'm telling this story, so there's evidence that it was in the stars in case I die in a scooter accident in Bali.
We'll be super careful.
Oh yeah, super duper careful. Anyway, yeah. So Chinese astrology, that was a pretty full adventure. I went, oh God, I swear there was a few other things that lady told me.
Probably, but those were the main ones.
She did
It
like a
was
palm reading saying that I was going to die. I wasn't supposed to live very long or something. And let's see. She said that did she give any dietary advice?
I don't remember. Those were the main points.
Yeah, she told
I
me to
just
wear
remember-
bling.
Yeah, wear bling, and that you had a lot of fire. Basically, what you just said. The rest of it, I kind of just forgot.
Yeah.
That was the important
and
stuff.
don't primarily be a writer.
Yeah, that was pretty.
And at the time, I was like, oh man, I like writing. It's not so much that I like writing. When I'm in a flow state, I love it. But it takes a while to get that flow state going. And that can be frustrating when when I have other things on my mind and I have like a day job. So, yeah.
But so you can still write, just not. It can't be your primary income source. Is I can't think what she was saying.
Yeah, and I kept again looking for loopholes with this, and eventually she was like, I think you'll be good at anything you do. Just be careful. She like went into mom mode, but she's a sweet fortune teller, very nice. All right, so we've covered the 5 stages of time, the Chinese zodiac, the 60-year cycle, Seollal. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been January 23rd, 2023. The second day of the year of the water rabbit. And in Yeoju, South Korea. Wishing you a happy year of the rabbit. Bye.